Hey everybody, thank you for watching. We're here to talk about another mock draft that we have done with 9 wonderful listeners. It was a wonderful group, and if you're watching and you were in this draft, thank you for being there. It was quite fun. Joining Dave Hewitt, the producer of this channel, and myself is Jeff Erickson from RotoWire, a good friend and also a good expert, and we are going to avail ourselves of his expertise. What you need to know about this draft was, once again, 12 teams, once again, full point per reception for every team, for every position except tight end. Tight end has a boost. Tight end is 1.5 point per reception. The idea, if you're interested in this for your league, is to try to level out scarcity, level out the positions a little bit. We'll talk a little about whether we think that's valid, whether we think it actually does that. Certainly, you're going to see that the tight ends went a little earlier than you used to seeing, maybe in some cases to the harm of our teams. But I'm going to turn it over to Dave Hewitt, who has a rundown. He'll show us the board, and we'll go from there.
So I'm putting the board up here. I'll also tweet out a link if anyone wants to see the picture outside of the video. So in the first round, all 3 of us took our running backs. But I want to ask, Chris, you mentioned the boosted tight end. Travis Kelce went for the 5th overall pick, which is obviously higher than a normal round. I know for myself, I probably still would have done Chubb, and I picked right before you. If Kelce was available to you at the 7th pick, would you have done it? Would you have gone tight end?
I think I probably would have taken Kelce. He's just a total wrecker in this format. I don't know. Jeff, how about you? You were picking a little later.
I took Zeke at 9, but I would have taken Kelce over him for sure. I've even done it in non-boosted formats a little bit. Sometimes, like when I'm playing on like underdog or something like that, when I try out the build, see if I like it. Right. That's the great thing about best balls is, yeah, okay, no, I don't really like it, or yeah, I do like it there. And yeah, I've done it before, and I think he's a huge wrecker in this format, like you said.
Sure, your team will wind up feeling not so great. It's at one or more position. There's no, it's an opportunity cost, no question about it. One that Hewitt and I are going to experience in the second round to a lesser extent, but we are going to experience it.
Right.
Kelce's never going to go 5, even in a full PPR. But in this kind of format, it made some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And with a mock draft, like you were mentioning, it's great to test it out and see how these builds go. And we're going to get to that. But you would have taken Kelce in the first, you said. In the second round, Jeff, you went with Justin Jefferson. We love Justin Jefferson here on the channel. We talk about him all the time, so I'm not slagging the pick. Were you tempted to do tight end there, or is it still a little too soon if it wasn't the guy in Kelce?
Sure, I was absolutely tempted, and I think I know Chris. I know you play in the fishbowl. I think Dave, you do too. Am I right about that?
Not yet.
You didn't? No. Okay. Well, anyhow, in the Scott Fishbowl, you saw tons of tight ends go early. You saw Pitts go in the second round in a lot of cases there too. So it's perfectly normal, and I've done it before. I in a boosted league like this, but I just love Jefferson. I actually love Metcalf. If I would have had Metcalf, he went 1 pick before me, I would have done that too. I just love a lot of those second-round receivers. I love Ridley. I love A.J. Brown. But I ultimately decided, okay, I want to get the next pick from the next trio of tight ends, because I think there's one tier with the top 3 tight ends, another tier at the next 3.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That kind of influence. Chris and I both took tight ends, and I know you taking Jefferson like you did influenced that for me, because I felt like our top 5 wide receivers were gone, which made me feel a little more comfortable going tight end. Is that what led you to it, Chris? And how'd you feel about after you took Kittle? I should say the tight ends if we took it.
Right, I took Kittle, you took Waller, and a lot of people have them reversed. A lot of people have Waller first, and then Kittle. It's just not how that's the, it's not ridiculous to have that opinion. It's not where I have them. I'll say for me, it really would have only been the top 5 receivers that would have gotten me away from those 3 tight ends. I don't think I would have gone off them, unless obviously those 3 tight ends are gone. Then I'm looking elsewhere. I'm probably looking at a running back to go with Barkley, but as it happened, the second tight end on my board fell to me, and the 5th receiver went right before Jeff. That Metcalf would have been my 5, so the decision felt easy in the moment. And I'll say I don't love the team. Like I'm okay. I felt like at a lot of places I was getting exactly the right value and not getting great value. I'll say part of it, I mean, if people look down the board, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers a lot higher than he goes in regular drafts. But this isn't a regular draft. This is a draft with all the people who know me. So I just knew that, like, this is, okay, on my board, this is where I have Rodgers and, the next kind of group of receivers. And so I'm just going to do Rodgers. I would say my lesson there is if you're going to do Kittle in the second, maybe just wait on quarterback.
Yeah, that makes sense because I went 2 tight ends as well. And I think I feel a bit better about it than you. I said 2 tight ends. I went tight end in the second is what I meant to say there.
Right. Right.
And
although you guys did go with
I did actually do 2 tight ends.
We'll talk about that later.
That's later.
But overall, I think I felt a bit better about my team. But you are going to be, we mentioned at the top, you're going to feel weaker somewhere, right? So wide receiver was going to be hurting for me by doing this rather than normally I'm punting tight end. I'm going to jump down a little. Everyone can see the board here and they can leave their comments and questions on the video about it. But I want to jump ahead. Jeff, you took Kyler Murray in the 5th. Were you locked in on getting Kyler there, or you only had one running back at that point, and that's why I'm asking about it?
Yeah, I absolutely was not locked in at all. I just thought that was the value. James Robinson went. Darrell Henderson went. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you. But I was kind of looking at those two. I didn't mind necessarily waiting on running backs. Part of me wanted to take Javonte Williams. I like his skills a lot. I mean, I saw, the thing that pushed me more towards liking Javonte Williams is I've been seeing some good pass pro reviews of him as well, and that kind of gets me excited. That makes the possibility of a 3-down back from him. And yet I still thought that, man, Murray's just sitting there. He's the value, and especially after Chris took Aaron Rodgers. Money where the mouth is and all that. I think Murray's a clear jump over Dak. I think he's probably ahead of Wilson and Herbert by a good round or two too. As it turns out, I could have waited on those guys perhaps, but there was only one running back that I liked, and that was Javonte Williams. If I didn't get him in the 6th, okay, fine. I'm gonna wait. I waited till the 8th. A little uncomfortable, and in fact, you guys kept sniping me later on some of those down ballot guys. Rojo, Jamal Williams, both. Thank you, Chris. Both were guys I was hoping. I got a couple of them, but I really wanted 4 of them. Just because I was doing the wait on the running backs thing.
I want to ask you about that in a second. Let's do a little thank you to Fantrax.
Yeah.
They put on this mock draft. They are running a game day promotion where everybody in the winning league on Fantrax will get tickets to an NFL game and $6,000 for the people in the league to travel with and to have hotels and stuff like that. Playing on Fantrax is free. We did this draft we've done all our mock drafts on Fantrax. It's the most customizable free league platform there is. You look at the back end and there's nothing you can't do. And really the goal should be to join as many leagues as you can. If you don't have a Fantrax account yet, go to fantrax.com/Harris. That gives us a little bit of credit. It's all free for you. And then just frankly start or join as many leagues as you possibly can, because there's going to be one lucky league that gets chosen at random in September, and everybody's going to get sent to an NFL game, and everyone's going to get a chunk of some money to travel there.
Yeah, I've thrown it out in the other videos. If someone's got an odd number and you need me to join, I'll take shots at going to the NFL game. Just leave a comment, guys. I'm always reading this stuff.
All right. So let me go back to actually what Jeff said, because I kind of am curious. I mean, that is a long time to wait, and you clearly have a lot of good players at other positions. How do you feel at running back, though, with how it wound up? I think Raheem Mostert's your number 2.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable, obviously. But,
right.
Every draft brings a level of discomfort. You're talking about how when you take an early quarterback, you have to give something else. I have an early quarterback and an early tight end. You notice I didn't take a second quarterback. I waited to the last round to take my tight end. I tried to tackle a little bit with volume. I typically go receiver heavy. I love those receivers in the 2nd through 7th rounds. So I kept hitting on them a little bit there. But the thing is, I don't love Mike Davis. I don't love Myles Gaskin. I don't love Damian Harris. They're okay. They're all fine, but I like the receivers there better. So why not take the players I like better? And especially if this is a mock, but if we're playing it out, what position do I usually build on most in free agency? It's running back. It's a position of opportunity. We're going to jump in and grab more of these guys. There's going to be fewer receivers on the waiver wire that I'm going to go after. So I might as well get the guys I like at receiver. If I'm going to have a weakness, it's going to be running back.
So let's just say, I'll throw back to you in a second, Dave, but I think viewers can take that lesson, and it's been a consistent theme throughout all of these mocks. It's like, don't force it. If your choice is, I really need a running back, but I just don't like Mike Davis, or I don't like Myles Gaskin or whoever, and I'm in the 5th round, it does feel like I love I'm not sure I love depends on where I pick in the second, but I love the receivers in like late third through fifth. They're all great. They're all flag players. They're all terrific. I love taking receivers there. And if that means I'm passing on running back and getting a little scared, like you're having to wind up with ickier running backs along the way, I think it's worth doing. You shouldn't feel, I mean, don't let other people draft for you, and you shouldn't ever feel forced into any pick.
Right. And that's the lesson you learn and you learn again. And, it's definitely something you have to take away now. And the other thing is when you do that, have your targets later on. Know who you want to go after. If you're pushing back your second running back, know who the guys you are that you do like in rounds 7 through 11. Know which ones that you're targeting, and know when there might be some scarcities there too, and when they're starting to run out.
Yeah, so I think that's a great tip. When those guys miss, when you took Kyler, is there a moment where you start kind of queuing up some guys, or maybe because you guys are the pros, you do it more? You aren't. I jump and have to queue stuff up. Like when I miss a guy, I'm like, oop, next round I need to look at some stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely do. Especially like I haven't done too many drafts on Fantrax. So, the defaults are going to be different than like say at the NFFC, or they're going to be elsewhere. Absolutely. You should. And God forbid you ever have any electricity problems, tech problems, or anything like that. You might as well have your queue loaded up anyway. So you get the guys that you want. You don't get stuck with anyone. But yeah, absolutely. Know your targets, know where they're going to be, and load them up in your queue.
So you were weaker at running back. My build, especially because I ended up taking 2 tight ends, I was weaker at wide receiver. I want to get expert opinion here from you guys. My number 2 wide receiver is Michael Thomas, who might not play half the season. If I'm lucky, it'll be sooner. How crazy is that? Like if I went DJ Moore, I went Michael Thomas. What do you guys think of this?
It's crazy, but maybe just so crazy it might work. I think it's fine. I think the question is much more, were there wide receivers that you could have taken before you wind up taking Michael Thomas? Thomas was in the 6th round, right? Yep. So you had Chubb in the 1st, you had Jacobs in the 3rd, so you're in the 5th, and you let, I'm not mad at you for doing this, but like Thielen, Beckham, Higgins, Chase, and Anderson and all go by, and Judy and a couple others all go by, and to take Darrell Henderson. So that's really the moment where you're pivoting and you're saying, okay, I might get caught on the wrong end of a wide receiver run. But once you're on that wrong end, don't compound the mistake by doing something you don't want. Don't take a receiver as your second receiver that you're like, I hate that guy, I think he should go 3 rounds later. That's not interesting. I don't want to do that. As long as you know that you're getting a potential number 1, but you're going to have to make it up as the draft goes along. I don't mean to like hog the answer time, Jeff, but I'm actually okay with it.
Yeah. In theory, I'm okay with it. In terms of the general overall strategy, I'm just not there for Michael Thomas, because I'm worried about both the health and like what he's going to be when he does come back, what he's going to be like, say if it is Winston at quarterback. Is he going to have the same ability to cut on a dime and get open? Will he be can guard Mike? That's what I'm worried about a little bit. You might have gotten him in the 7th too, by the way. That's the other thing that I think would have been interesting. I like Judy better there, for instance, that went a couple picks after you. But that's just player evaluation, who you like better, who you're most comfortable with. I don't mind the practice, the strategy. I just, in name only, I don't love Thomas there.
Yeah, that's fair. And I wanted that feedback because that was one of the picks that stood out when I was doing this. I was also considering Galladay, and I was like, well, he's hurt too. If I'm going to be taking the guy here,
what's the difference?
Right.
I wanted to take in my rankings, who I thought was a bigger home run swing. And then I just we talked about queuing people up at that moment. I went, you're drafting wide receiver heavy, Dave. You're going to throw a bunch of arrows here later in the draft, and you're just hoping that Pittman and whoever it is going to go. And that kind of takes me to the next questions. Chris, later on in the draft, I'm showing the board. People can go check it out. Any pick of yours or anything that stood out that you want to talk about, a pick you liked?
So I have Aaron Rodgers. I took a quarterback early, and a lot of people watching the video aren't familiar with my work this year and aren't into where Aaron Rodgers where I took him. But let's just say I took a high level QB1, and in this kind of league, I'm typically not going to take a second quarterback if I've taken a high level QB1. But Justin Fields needs to go in every draft. And it's funny because I don't really have him in a full PPR. I don't really have him ranked that way. I have him ranked like in a full PPR 160 or something. I kind of don't care. Like there's a point at the end of a draft, if Justin Fields is still sitting out there, I'm just going to take him. And I did here. And like, he's maybe not going to be a great real life quarterback. I don't think anybody really knows that yet until we actually see him play and throw and run an offense. But for fantasy, he's a wrecker. He comes into the league as the third fastest quarterback in the league. He's just we've seen that in the preseason. So I'll just say, as blanket advice to everybody, that if you've got a savvy group, which this definitely was, hats off to everybody who drafted with us, savvy group. But, the savvy group that wants to wait on quarterback and not double up on QB, go ahead and take Justin Fields late. Bump him up your board. I'm fine with it.
What about you, Jeff? Any picks that stand out?
Well, the pick right after Chris there was Trevor Lawrence, too, which I find pretty interesting. I know there's some Urban Meyer dysfunction concerns. I mean, it seems to be getting louder. But I believe in the talent. I think that Lawrence is going to be a really darn good player in this league, and I end up getting him a lot when I'm waiting on quarterback. I'll get some combination of Tannehill and Fields, Tannehill and Lawrence, sometimes Kirk Cousins and one of those younger guys. Cousins has a nice early schedule. I don't play the schedule game too much, but the early part, maybe like, hey, Bengals, I'm not really worried about him facing the Bengals. I mean, that's one of his early games. So I think they pair well. As far as like in this draft, I didn't really get too many of my late targets. Like, see, also you guys keep on sniping my running backs there. I wanted Jamal Williams as going there. It's not like I love him, but I know he can do all three aspects of the game there as far as a running back goes. So, running, catching, and blocking. I mean, I like that. I like the Rojo pick too. I like Dave took a couple of my guys as well, and I kept on like running into this problem. Like, I wanted to get a few more backs. I thought that I'd get the volume to make up for my lack of earlier pick, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted to. Something to take away that, hey, even though you're waiting on running backs, everybody still takes late running backs too. You're not going to get what you want always. You just have to be able to adjust to that too. So I took Shenault because I like Shenault a lot, instead of maybe one more running back. Like, I could have been perfectly happy taking Gus Edwards or Williams there in the 10th. Instead, I am taking a guy I liked in Shenault, who I just think is just in a PPR league is going to get a ton of targets, especially with ETN out. I just think he's going to get all those, jet sweeps, quick targets, things like that. Remember all the buzz he was getting in mini camps this summer, and then it kind of dissipated. Well, it should be back now.
Thank you for joining us, Jeff. Chris, thank you for joining us. Everyone, review the picks, leave comments, ask questions, and, you can bash on my team. I could take it. I want to join that league with you guys and get the game day pass. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.